one of the more frustrating things that you might have to do is completely modify or reduce the weight. And so that tends to be frustrating for lifters that are more experienced, right? Because now they think they're backsliding, but what they're not understanding is that they're modifying in order to progress.
Do you pee on yourself sometimes, or maybe have some pain during sex? Well, if so, welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk about pelvic floor. It's not just for mamas, it's for all women, especially those who lift. So if you're ready, you will want to listen up and lean in as we elevate your mind.
That made me laugh.
On ourselves. For those of you new to this podcast, if you just stumbled up upon us, we'd love for you to make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us wherever you're listening to this podcast. Make sure you have that notification bell on so you know when we drop the next episode. Also, we are going to banter for the first 10 to 15 minutes. So if you don't want to hear us speak on our lives, look at the show notes for when we talk about peeing yourself. Great. I love peeing myself. It's so annoying.
I'm so fortunate I haven't been peeing myself.
Oh, you just wait, ma'am. Just wait.
I know.
No, but I shouldn't say that because you've already started the pelvic floor work before. Mm-hmm. So the beautiful thing about your age is because all of this stuff that when I was your age wasn't out. So I'm playing catch up,
Well, I would say it's even still not out. Like we know about it because of the fitness stuff, but I would say most women don't even know about it, or they think like it's too late. They might as well not even do anything, or like they're forever wearing like Depends or panty liners. But even like they always think like, oh, it's too late. But no, like you can see pelvic floor even before, like when you're in your teens. Like some kids have to see pelvic floor physical therapists as well.
I'm sure. Yeah. Interesting. So my dog is getting her teeth cleaned and I'm terrified.
Do you like getting your teeth cleaned?
No.
You don't? I love getting my teeth cleaned.
You have great teeth. I did not have great dental health as a child, and I had to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on fixing that.
Yeah.
Because my parents did not take me to the dentist.
Oh, really? I've had to spend thousands of dollars because I fell off that bike.
Yeah. When was that? What are you talking about?
Really? You didn't know about this?
No.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's like one of the traumas from Amarillo. I was not sober.
One of them.
Yeah. Okay. And I flipped over the handlebars of the bike and I smashed my face and then my teeth came out like they were dropped down. Yeah. And Michael, like I had to go to the hospital, and that's why I have this scar right here.
Oh my god.
Because I had to get stitches, and then I got stitches on my nose too. And then I had to get braces. And then
way.
Yeah, I can't believe I have these pictures.
You've never shared me this story. I don't want to see a picture. I don't have the stomach.
Yeah, it's very like
why I'm not a physician.
I did progress pictures every day of my face. And then I had to wear braces again, and that was embarrassing because like I had
those are your real teeth though, right?
These are my real teeth, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I had to get root canals because they died, the front ones. I know. And so then that was all good. Got the braces off finally. And then like the front ones, I don't know what they do at the dentist, but they fixed them because they were gray and whatnot because they like just get discolored because there's obviously no blood flow. So yeah, I had a really I've spent I think I calculated it it's been over $20,000 on my teeth. At least.
Why you don't drink and bike?
Yeah, no, literally I don't anymore. Like Michael was like, no, you're not allowed to. I'm like, okay, that's fair.
I've never heard that story.
Oh, really?
I'm so thankful. I've never had a bloody experience when consuming alcohol. Nah.
Yeah.
Just a couple bruises here and there. So that's nice. Anyway, so my dog's getting your teeth cleaned. And I cried.
Not Brooke, or not Brookie.
Liberty.
Rest in peace, Brookie. Not Libby.
Yeah. Harlem, and she's 12, and I'm terrified. So if I have to leave this podcast because they're calling me, that's why I'm leaving.
What time are they supposed to be done?
They said late morning to early afternoon.
Oh, perfect. We'll wrap up just in time for it to be late morning, early afternoon.
Correct. So I'm also doing the Simon 1 full body MRI.
When?
I'm trying to schedule it with them now. Because they have $100 off until today. So I got to schedule it today. Yes. So just for you guys to know what this does, I think it's brilliant if you have the funds to do it.
The Simon Med, what's it called? Full MRI?
Simon 1 is what it's called. So Simon 1 examines the brain, small vessel issues, brain masses, such as gliomas and metastasis. I know that's a word that I've heard before, but I can't say it. Brain hemorrhaging, brain infarct, processes such as MS, pituitary tumors, cysts. And then we go into the sinuses. Yay. This is good because I have so many sinus issues. Sinusitis, polyps, and then and then you go into the next. So your pharynx, inflammation, masses, cyst, pharynx. So I said.
Keep going.
Don't you school me, teacher. Thyroid, masses, cyst, inflammation, lungs, pulmonary nodules over 8 millimeters, pulmonary masses, pneumonia, and then pleural infusion, heart, megaly, cardiac masses, aortic aneurysms, chest wall, soft tissue masses, and then it goes into your abdomen. So you're looking at non-alcohol, fatty liver, cysts, cirrhosis of the liver, bile ducts, gallbladder, pancreas, spleen, adrenal glands, kidneys, stomach, bowels, lymph nodes, aorta, abdominal wall, bony structures, and then bladder, which we're talking about today. Cancer, wall thickening, bladder diverculitis. And then the one I'm getting is for specifically for your brain. So early detection of Alzheimer's, which you'll be very happy to know the results of. Yeah. Brain aneurysms, also something I will be happy to know because I had a friend who lost his mom from a brain aneurysm when she was gardening. Aww. And she was so healthy.
Yeah, that's sad.
I know. It was very sad. And then female reproductive organs. So half of these I don't have, but cysts, your uterine prolapse, uterine, I don't know what that word is, and ovarian masses. So all in one, 5 to 7 days, I'll get my results.
Yay.
Yeah. So stay tuned.
Okay.
So that's very exciting.
So in 2 weeks from now, essentially, we'll have an update on the podcast.
On top of that, what that doesn't do is look for masses in your breasts. So I also have to get a mammogram and ultrasound.
Lame.
That's so lame. I'm like,
I know. Why stop there?
Yeah, I know. Like, why not just add that in? I mean, you're already there. Like, you're already looking at my chest cavity.
Yeah.
Why aren't you looking at my boobies? And I know the ladies out there will relate to what I'm going to say. Relate to what I'm going to say. I'm a fit girl. I have dense breast tissue and I always have to get a ultrasound. Why don't we just skip it? Why don't we just go straight to the ultrasound? I don't want to put my boobs through the smash. If I need an ultrasound, anyways.
Not a lot of boob to put through that smash either.
Correct. I actually have big boobs.
You do? What size bra do you wear?
36C.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm jealous.
I mean, there they are. There they are.
That was hardly an A.
But it still feels like there's not a lot to put in there, you know?
Yeah.
So it's annoying. I mean, come on. Let's do better. Okay. We already had our little spiel on politics. But whose idea was it to have a metal crank thing for your vagina?
Oh, I know.
For a pap smear.
Well,
and then an MRI.
Because OBGYN actually came from the slavery era. And so originally it was midwives that were doing the work, but then doctors became a profession and they started going into it. And there is I forget his name, a notable doctor. Actually, this would be a good segue into our conversation. A notable doctor that used slaves as part of his like training on people.
Mhm.
And he would do a lot of procedures on them. And it was like really grotesque conditions. And even there were some like allegations that he would impregnate them just to like work on like birth, and then go from there. I forget. I read
So
a whole book about it.
disgusting.
I
Oh,
forget what it
that's
was called.
interesting.
Yeah, it was a disturbing book because it talked about like how these women like over time would just reek of like urine because they had like prolapse and because they like had uncontrollable bowels and whatnot. But he like utilized them as like OBGYN procedures. And then that's also where
So
like go ahead.
I was gonna say this is a terrible example, but or connection. It's like what they do to animals,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
terrible.
They utilize them to like slaves to kind of develop OBGYN. And then that's where like the midwives got pushed out and that stuff looked like what's it called? Like witchcrafty, right? Because they started promoting kind of like what they did with weed and whatnot. Like they started saying it's like more witchcraft and like you need a medical doctor. And so people like you need a trained professional and not this person who's been practicing it for, eons and eons and years. So yeah, that's a little history there.
Thank you. But
Welcome.
no, let's MRI,
Do better.
not MRI, mammograms.
Uh-huh.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Pap smear, terrible.
Terrible.
What else is terrible for a woman? Periods, terrible.
Periods. Yeah. Childbirth.
Peeing on yourself. So let's talk about that.
Okay.
So I'm going to be fully transparent.
Oh.
I have had issues with urinary like
incontinence.
Uh-huh. I would say it's definitely since my hysterectomy, but maybe even before that.
Oh.
Yeah. I have my parents used to make fun of me because whenever we get home, I'm like, I gotta go to the bathroom. I gotta go to the bathroom. And I would rush to the bathroom. Like it was always a thing. Like it was a joke in my house that I would have this urgency.
Uh-huh.
And that was when I was like a teenager. And we talked about this, remember? I think it's because, so this is just an example, but when I was dancing, there was moves where I would switch leap and land in a split.
Oh yeah. Because I remember I had that reaction.
You did have the same reaction. And we didn't know any better. We were just doing our competition routine. That was the end of our routine. It was a turn into like a jump, like a switch leap. And then we landed in the split. We swung our leg around. We put our hands back and our heads back. And it was boom. It was like so dramatic. And we competed that dance for a whole year.
Your poor vagina.
And I'm pretty sure that's why I've had issues since then, and with my hips.
That it could be hips. It could also be like the working out too, because what a lot of women don't understand is when they work out, like it just is a constant tensor on the pelvic floor muscles with the breathing and whatnot. So, and it's funny because a lot of times when I get in, okay, it's funny because a lot of times
this is an Amanda show, everyone. I don't know how to say it.
A lot of times people think like, they think like, oh, I need to like strengthen my pelvic floor muscles, but I would promise you, like if you work out consistently, it's probably more of a relaxation that you need to do with the pelvic floor muscles, because, and even that's why like I hate on Kegels is because there's a specific way to do them. It's not just like tighten your vagina to make it tight. It's more so of like a whole like breathing system. And when you're just doing Kegels and you already have a tight pelvic floor, then that actually can exacerbate your problems.
Yeah. Well, and this episode really is just to help women, because I think, again, we do associate it with pregnancy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe age, but, every woman should be able to run, jump, laugh, live, laugh, love without peeing themselves. So
correct.
I think this is important. So 1 in 3 women experience bladder leaks.
Yep.
But most have never been pregnant.
Yep.
Love, love, love. Love it, love it. Estrogen decline in perimenopause thins the pelvic floor lining, which we know, and the tissue, right? And so we can see, as I said, over age 40, this kind of leaking exacerbated in later years.
Perimenopause.
Yeah. And our notes say Kegels are not a cure-all. That's why you hate on them. Up to 40% of women actually have an overactive, too tight pelvic floor, and doing Kegels makes that worse. And then chronic hip and low back tightness is present in 50% of women with pelvic floor dysfunction. And that's going to be all I say about this because I don't know a lot. Go.
Well, so
I
like
can read those stats.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of my hip and my back really hurt, and sometimes I wonder like was it part of my pelvic floor? And honestly, my like stuff didn't get necessarily like further supported until I saw a pelvic floor PT, but it was more so I didn't have a connection with my glutes. And that's why I emphasize that so much with my clients is like, okay, we have to really work this posterior chain. So your back and your glutes and your hamstrings through fertility, through postpartum, because so much of what we do needs to support that. But when we're looking at the pelvic floor, think of it, I'm going to try and kind of paint you a picture of it and think of your pelvic floor almost like a bowl, right? So the top of the bowl is your hips, and then the bottom of the bowl would essentially be your vagina or the lower kind of part of your body in that sense. And when we tip the bowl forward, right? So the back is going to come up. So think of your butt popping. Now I've got an anterior pelvic tilt. That's going to cause weak low back. And then other muscles are going to take over. There comes our back pain, right? Then if I tip my hips forward, so it's interesting because you'll see that pelvic tilt of my hips down, my booty popped up a lot with pregnancy just because of the changes in the body. Then as we go further into postpartum, you'll start to see more of a butt tuck. So now think of the bowl being tipped back, so, and then butt being tucked under. Well, now they think like,
you're
okay,
holding a baby.
Yeah. So think of like where you hear mom butt and it's like, I don't have any glutes. Well, because we're not using our glutes. So now my glutes are weak. And pelvic floor, so you have to think, so we've got the bowl system there, and you want a bowl, like when you have a bowl, you want the water to stay in the bowl, right? If I tip the bowl one way or the other way, that's going to cause dysfunction with that bowl. We also want to think about the ribs are part of that too, as well as the diaphragm. So thinking of like just below the chest. Now with the ribs, those can become flared with pregnancy, and we can also have them tight. The other thing too with the diaphragm, thinking of if I'm not getting a full exhale, everything's going to be really tight in there. So we can be chest breathers, which is going to affect our pelvic floor, or we're going to be upper ab grippers, which is going to affect our pelvic floor. So let me break those down a little bit too.
Break it down.
Sorry. Popping off. So when we're thinking about like chest breathers, so everybody right now, what I want you to do is just breathe and kind of connect to your body and think about where do you feel your breath going? Do you feel it in your chest? And like even putting your hands on your chest and your belly, does your chest rise more than your belly? You are a chest breather and you need to work on that because that air is not getting down to the pelvic floor. It's not expanding and contracting it. It's staying up in that upper body. With the ribs.
Okay. As a therapist, we use this.
Okay.
The easiest way to do it, guys, is have one hand on your chest and one hand on your diaphragm, which is right under your chest, and take that breath in and see which hand is moving.
There. Yeah.
More. You want your hand on your chest to stay steady and the hand on your belly to go up and down.
Expand. Yep.
Yeah.
And so, and even thinking of that from a therapy like flight and fight, when we're in this heightened state, where are we breathing from? Right. So if we're constantly breathing in our chest, go
right. It's very short, the inhale and exhale.
And so if you're thinking about that too, if you're always in this stress state, I'm always breathing through my chest. Well, yeah, everything's going to be tightened and stressed as well and contracted. If we're thinking about when we're breathing into the pelvic floor, we have our belly expand, our ribs expand, but don't forget your back is going to expand too. And you're going to almost feel that pelvic floor kind of drop down. And then as I inhale, it drops down, exhale, it's going to come back up. And it's almost like you're lifting up a blueberry with your vagina, right? Instead of just like gripping it. That's a Kegel. Kegel is just a grip. And so those are all things that we want to pay attention to.
Is it lifting up or like you're like sucking up?
Both. I mean, you can even say like sucking up a blueberry. I've heard like an elevator kind of coming up through there as well. Different cues work for different people, right?
Yeah.
So, and it all did, but you have to think like it's not just your pelvic floor that's impacted. If you think of all those muscles that are running through there as well. So here's where our low back problems come from. Here's where our poor glute activation comes from. Here, our tight hip flexors, our rib flare, our chest breathing. So it's all kind of connected, just like the body's connected to the mind, and we forget that one piece. And just like we say, just because your knee hurts doesn't mean it's necessarily your knee, right? It could be something else going on.
Yeah. Talk to me about bracing versus bearing down,
Yeah.
and then also what that looks like specifically with training.
Sure. So bracing is going to be like more of a practice of like preparing your core to do a heavy lift or even just a lift in general. I shouldn't narrow that to heavy. But when we're bracing, we're everything's coming in, engaging, and kind of staying in that position of contraction. But it's not just a click flip of contract. So what I want you to do, and so you can picture this, is do a Kegel real quick. That's a quick contraction. There wasn't really any kind of we'll say activation or streamline process of the other parts that I talked about. So when you did just a Kegel real quick, your gut probably went in and your abs went down and you kind of probably hunched over a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about lifting and going into bracing, I'm going to exhale and kind of bring everything in and tighten it and creating security in my abdomen. Now, if I'm going in, and this is more so for maybe my postpartum or prenatal or excuse me, pregnancy clients, if I'm going in and bracing and I feel heaviness, there's a sign that I need to work on something there. It should feel relatively unbothered, we'll say. There shouldn't be like that was kind of weird.
Hey, YouTube, today's giveaway, yes, we're starting this, is the Self Mastery Method, which is a self-led program on my mindset method. All you have to do is comment below on this podcast, and we are going to randomly select the winner, and you will get access to that program for 4 months and be able to work through the entire method and join along with all that we do. Now, back to the show.
And it takes a lot of
for the not pregnant client or listener, talk to me about like belly button awareness when
yeah. So this is where when my gripe with Pilates and yoga come in, they're like belly button to spine, belly button to spine. And so that's more of a sucking in, right? And again, audience, what I want you to do is pay attention right now to what your belly's doing. Is it sucked in? Because most of the time, especially for our generation, it was told suck in, suck in, suck in. Well, that's going to create an abnormal breathing pattern as well. So when they say belly button to spine, that's essentially sucking in. But if you picture like a ball, right, and you squeeze the middle of the ball, that singes that midpoint. That creates abnormal breathing pattern as well. So what we want is the ball to be able to expand. And if I have my whole hands wrapped around the ball, it contracts together. So when we're talking about like a non-lifting point of the belly button to spine, just focus on relaxing your belly just throughout the day. Check in, like, how is my belly? Is it relaxed? And just let it go. Like you're going to have like a belly, which is what many of us haven't wanted. But I promise you, like you're actually going to get the aesthetic look that you're going for if you're focused on that by just relaxing that and being able to engage it properly.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
What about the like breath patterns for listeners when say squatting?
So, and well, I would say even I do XX, exhale on the exertion. So on the more challenging part of the lift, we're ideally going to exhale. Now, there are some people who would do, it's called reverse breathing, where they would do the opposite, but that is going to be specific to them. And more likely than not, that's going to become a recommendation from a pelvic floor physical therapist that works specifically with you. For most women, you're going to exhale on the exertion. So in a squat, say, let's do a barbell squat, picture it. So you're loading up the bar. You're going to go under the bar. Before you lift the bar off the rack, you are already bracing. So I'm exhaling and contracting all my muscles, letting everything kind of flex, taking my step back. I'm going to go down, inhaling, then pressing up, exhaling. So as you're in that bottom of the squat position, going back up to the standing position, we're going to exhale.
So interestingly, the reason I asked that was I was watching Jen Winderstrom, who I absolutely love, lift.
Yep.
And she was on her down. She held her breath. She literally was like, I'll send you the video.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what I do. And it depends on the weight, I would say too. Like there's obviously going to be a different exertion and utilization of breath as if you're doing like a 2-rep squat compared to like 15, right? 15, I'm going to expect you to kind of be breathing through it on the 2-rep. Exhale as you're coming up. Oh, she's like, is that heavy though? It looks heavy because she's kind of shaking. Yeah. So that's where I would say you're probably not going to be like inhaling on a heavy lift going down, right? Because you need to keep that brace. Whereas on a lighter weight, think of like a 65-pound squat compared to like a 200-pound squat. Your whole mindset and what you're wanting your body to do is completely different.
Yeah. Good. Anything else in regards to training?
I would say, so one of the more frustrating things that if you're working on your breathing pattern or just kind of correcting some imbalances when you're training, one of the more frustrating things that you might have to do is completely modify or reduce the weight. And so that tends to be frustrating for lifters that are more experienced, right? Because now they think they're backsliding, but what they're not understanding is that they're modifying in order to progress. And for the beginning lifters, I would really encourage you to work on that breath work. And one of the easier things that you can do is when you're laying in bed at night, practice the breathing. So put the hand on the chest and hand on the belly. Do I feel it all there? Do I feel my belly expand? Okay, now I'm going to move my hand to my back. Do I feel my breath go into my back? And think of sending the breath down to the belly and relaxing the pelvic floor with that. There are kind of belts you can wear. So there's 2 types of belts, right? And we've talked about one of them before with the weightlifting belt. I would highly discourage the use of that unless you're going for a 1-rep max and or you're a very experienced lifter. The other belt, I forget what it's called. I have one. But essentially it's very helpful because it has little nodules on it that are kind of pressure points to bring awareness to that part of your body so you can focus on the breathing. So that might be something you consider investing in if you are really trying to work on the breath work. A free, no cost thing that you can do when you're done lifting, go to child's pose, practice breathing.
Yeah. We kind of touched on some of the, like, you talked about the canister, the ribs, the diaphragm, pelvic floor. But we didn't really go into the details of like dysfunction beyond like peeing, right? So obviously you'll hear women say like, I don't want to do the double unders in CrossFit or even jumping in any
box jumps. Yeah. Or any kind of thing. Well, and even too, it's not just peeing your pants. It can be pooping your pants too.
Right.
So it's like if just because you don't pee your pants, but if you poop your pants, I mean, it's kind of funny because I would think more people are like more alarmed by the pooping of the pants, but it's like probably more people experience the peeing of the pants. But anyways, so.
And it's not, for some people, it's not like you're having a full blown like pee. It's just coming, it's kind of just coming out. Yeah.
And so I would say, like even thinking of fear of wearing any colored clothing, like you always have to wear black too. Like that's a sign.
I would always look at the wad at CrossFit. I'm like, today
black
we're wearing black.
Yep. Hip pain. So hip pain as well. I would say hip flexor tightness, low back pain, kind of maybe even like a tension down one leg that goes through the back. Like some people say it's their sciatica. That's a common complaint. It's probably not your sciatica. It could just be a muscle imbalance and a dysfunction going on. More importantly, pain with sex. So I think this is one that most women will relate to. Like sex should not be painful. Right. Now, granted, if sex is painful for one reason or another, but consistently it should not be painful. It should not be something that you're not tolerating. It should not be something that you're trying to avoid because of the pain. And actually there are a lot of couples who really struggle with this because, and you would probably know this better than I do, because, they're wanting to be intimate. They are finding challenging ways to be intimate in more ways than one. And even like, there needs to be a warm-up period. Like my mom says, women are, ovens, men are microwaves. Yeah. So thinking of like, okay, even if I am warmed up, like, and it's still painful, there are things that the pelvic floor physical therapist can do and work on you with as well.
Yeah. I think of just, you said like as a therapist, why this is important. Like, I just think of aging in a couple. Right. So men, their testosterone goes down. They have issues with, erectile dysfunction, and maybe not erectile dysfunction, but just mechanical issues. And women, as we go through perimenopause, that thinning of the tissue, even like
Dryness.
lubrication, right?
Uh-huh.
And so education, right?
Yeah.
Women learning about men and how that changes, men learning about women. If you're in a same-sex relationship still, educating yourself and understanding that so you can have a lot of compassion towards each other. One of the, what was it? Was it at the event, at the Mary Claire Haver event? I want to say the CEO of Honor Health said, I'm here because I never learned any of this and I'm here for my wife,
Yep.
But
it's funny you say that.
When you have that compassion and understanding that this is not I don't want you, that I'm having, again, mechanical issues, if you will, then that can be something we work on. We figure out together. So
yeah. So, and there's dilators that help. Like there's like different size and truth, honestly, they look like dildos, but there's different size dilators that you work up to. And there's like a kit for that. But another thing I wanted to mention too of symptoms is like a heaviness in the vagina or even in, the butt area. That can be a sign of prolapse. And there's different grades of prolapse. Essentially what prolapse is, for lack of better terms, is your organs are falling out.
Gotcha. And so it feels like they're like some like weight.
They're literally falling out. Yeah. And what even too is sometimes you can see them protruding from the vaginal opening. So I know. And so there's, again, that can be helped with your breathing. So even going back to your breathing, right? So if you take that ball and you squeeze it in the middle, where's that pressure?
Down at the bottom
like
or the top?
On the bottom or the top. So if it's very heavy and then I'm bearing down and I'm not breathing properly and I'm lifting, then I can be exacerbating that problem. Yes.
I think of CrossFit. Like, obviously they have someone who's helping them with this, but I would think in competition, this is not abnormal.
I don't like peeing your pants and stuff.
No, like having issues with like prolapse. I'm looking this up.
I don't know if there's any stats on CrossFit and prolapse, but even to like, does CrossFit have it more because it's impacting their training where more of them get help, whereas other women might not get help because they don't know. Like, and you can literally like feel it. And I think going back to your point, like that's why education is so important of like, just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal. And we should really actually like be paying attention to our anatomy. It doesn't mean like, you need to be doing all the things downstairs, but like you do need to pay attention and be aware if there is a change or if something doesn't feel right and get help. And that's a like thing, like OBGYNs are OBGYNs. They're not functional OBGYNs, right? And that's why it's important to have like a functional trainer or a pelvic floor physical therapist that knows functional movement, not just anatomy movement.
So I just looked it up. So increased intra-abdominal pressure, CrossFit and similar high-intensity modalities involve heavy lifting, jumping, and bracing maneuvers that increase intra-abdominal pressure. The pressure can stress the pelvic floor, especially in individuals with underlying weakness or coordination issues. Research suggests that breath holding, the Valsalva maneuver during lift, increases risks when not supported by pelvic floor coordination. That was in the Pelvic Floor Disorders Fitness Journal. There's a higher rate of urinary incontinence, particularly stress urinary incontinence in women participating in CrossFit and similar high-impact sports. One study found that 26 to 49% of women in CrossFit report urinary incontinence, especially during double unders, box jumps, and heavy lifts. That's from the Female Pelvic Medicine and Reconstructive Surgery Journal, as well as Neurology and Urodynamics. Lastly, there's a direct evidence linking CrossFit to new onset pelvic organ prolapse. Is limited. Women with existing prolapse or weakened pelvic floor may experience symptom exacerbation. High load, high volume training can strain connective tissue over time, particularly postpartum. POP is more likely when there's a mismatch between demand and tissue capacity, like training hard before pelvic floor has rehabbed. And then it talks about postpartum women as well, especially within 6 to 12 months are at higher risks if they return to intense training without individualized pelvic floor rehab. So interesting.
Well, and going into the postpartum part of this is it takes up to 2 years for your body to recover its nutrients
How
from
does that happen then if you're having like a kid, like you're popping out
back to back.
babies?
Yeah, your body hasn't like think of like almost like a battery level, right? Like your body hasn't been fully recharged each time.
Yeah.
And so thinking of that, like, and even so, actually, I used to have a client. She had 4 kids and she had pelvic organ prolapse, so POP. Um, and each time it would get a little bit worse, a little bit worse, a little bit worse. And she was seeing a pelvic floor physical therapist, but it's really, they truly recommend waiting at least 18 months between kids. Now, for some people, they want to do that. Some people, they don't, right? And that's completely up to you. But even thinking of just the nutrient stores that are depleted from your body with pregnancy because it's so demanding, and then postpartum, and then most women aren't refueling or replenishing their stores appropriately. It's similar to like an injury, right? And I'm not saying pregnancy is a thing that we need to solve or cure, but like if you're persistently injured and then you persistently keep kind of going back to the same thing, then it's going to take longer for that injury to heal. And this is not to say like you can't be lifting while you're recovering, or you can't be lifting while you're going to pelvic floor physical therapy. You certainly should, and you certainly can. But it does mean, like I said, those adjustments need to be made appropriately for you.
Yeah. I do think pregnancy is like worse than an injury.
I was going to post on my Instagram today, what's worse, the second day of soreness or going through labor, because I am fucked from Monday.
Third day of soreness.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah. Well, now you know. All right. Tell our listeners how they can kind of self-assess and kind of red flags that they need to pay attention to.
So when you cough, are you scared to cough? Right? Because good job. Because sometimes coughing can cause leaking. Now, if you cough and sneeze like immediately after giving birth and you have leakage, that's normal. But if it persists, that's something that we need to be addressed. So coughing, sneezing, jumping. So you think of like kind of like quick movements to that pelvic floor. Does it have some leaking? And reminder, it can be leaking vaginally or butt. So if that's happening, we need to address it. Now think of yourself as a bowl, like take a picture. Do I have that pelvic tilt? Does my booty pop or does my booty tuck? Looking at your posture throughout the day, what hurts? Is it my low back? Do I feel like I have a mom butt? Do I have tight hip flexors where I feel like I always need to stretch them?
What is the mom butt?
Mom butt is just like a flat butt. Like there is no oomph to it. There's no juice.
I don't have that.
No, you don't. But think of all the moms that of how they hold the baby. They tuck their butt and rest them kind of on their hips. Well, that's also going to create like forward shoulders. So all of that stuff, like just looking at your posture, looking at like what causes this leaking if I have it, or even like, prolapse, like things can be worsened by that if I'm jumping on it consistent or doing like box jumps consistently. So like I said earlier, if you're always wearing black or like you're fearful to wear colors, like that's now we're impacting your life. Like that's something that's an added stressor that you have to add to your day. We should take that away. We talk about stressors all the time in your knobs, thinking of ways to mediate and work through and taking care of yourself. That's one of them. Like I said, the heaviness, constipation is one. So you could have, I would say, like leaky bowels, or we can always be constipated. Maybe we're straining to poop. That's a sign that your pelvic floor needs some help. Low back pain, like we mentioned. And then the other one we've kind of touched on, but haven't really like forefront, is the upper ab gripper. Yes. So what that looks like is like you'll see a line in your stomach, or your upper abs look great. Your lower abs kind of are softer still. And you can't figure out why despite doing abs. No.
If that's me.
I don't think so. Not when I look at your abs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
Good. Okay. And then what do they need to do to like adjust exercise? You already kind of touched on it, but any adjustments we want to make?
Yeah. First, always see a pelvic floor physical physical therapist. I can't recommend that enough. And there's different styles of pelvic floor physical therapy. So just be aware of that. If you feel like someone's not the right fit for you, find another one. The unfortunate thing is, at least here in a lot of the ones I work with are cash-based practices, because these assessments and these appointments are usually 30 minutes to an hour, hour and a half long. And then, of course, like in the insurance model, that's not really billed for. So if you can find someone through insurance, great. They tend to have a longer wait list than your cash-based practices. So that's number one. Number two, focus on breathing. Just pay attention to your breath. See where it's at. Where is it getting stuck? Where is it going to? Do you feel your body relax when you breathe, or are you always kind of in this heightened state? The other thing too is go slow, kind of progress appropriately. Going slow, you'll never be regretting that, but you will regret going too quick. So meaning if box jumps still exacerbate you and cause problems, maybe we do step ups, or maybe we do a jump, a step up, and alternate, and then eventually work our way back to those box jumps. The other thing too is I would really question, like, and I had to do this for myself too, is like, what's your goal here? Like, are you trying to go to the CrossFit games? No. Do you really need to be doing box jumps then? No. Like, you can do step ups. And in fact, I would guarantee you probably get more out of that workout doing the step up if you're looking for like glute work. Back off weight, which is a very humbling experience. And even sometimes changing the stance. So if we are peeing or maybe some heaviness, like instead of doing squats with like your feet shoulder width apart, maybe we do like a little offset where one foot is a little bit more in front of the other. And then we'd switch that out. So there's a lot of
the foot.
Yeah. So like left foot would be a little bit more in front, right foot would be a little bit more in front on the next set. So there's a lot of wiggle room that you can do, but it's really like you have to take accountability for that. Like if you want to feel better, you have to do this. And I promise you, like by taking that step back and doing the assessment, you'll feel better. You'll just feel more calm just by the way your breath has changed, right? Mm-hmm. But you'll also feel a little bit more relaxed with your lifts. They will get better because your body will have a better activation system and a better bracing system. And then not only that, usually the aesthetics will follow.
Speaking of aesthetics, core, Ooh. What are some things that we can work on? What are some moves that will help?
Please stop doing hanging leg raises if you are doing your hip flexors. That's
you feel it in your hip flexors.
Yeah. Because it's like, I see these girls doing hanging leg raises and I'm like, that's all hip flexor. Like it's supposed to be lower ab.
It's really hard, you guys. Like I do hanging leg raises and I have to be so focused. I have to get the stretch first and foremost, right? So like I really allow my legs to fall and then really trying to focus on using my core. And anytime I start feeling it in my hip flexor, I stop.
Hip flex. Yep. Same. And I mean, we've been working out for how many years now too, so it's like one of those things. I've stopped doing that. And stop doing the fancy ab exercises because again, we're not focusing on the breathing with it. So what I like to have clients do, bear hover hold. So I'm on all fours, right? So hands and knees. I'm going to excessively round my back, exhaling, and lift up, right? Hold and then come back down and gracefully do it. I do like marches. Marches are a good progression to dead bugs, but marches, I can put my hands on my lower belly because that's where you're supposed to feel it and bring my knees up. So lifting my legs, and you can do alternating or one side. I also really like kind of half kneeling, high to low resistance bands or cables. So thinking of a twist, but half kneeling. And I think those three will give you most likely what you're looking for as long as you rotate through them. More advanced techniques, dead bug, but even then we got to make sure that we're hitting the right areas. You can do a Russian twist, but I honestly put your feet on the ground and feel kind of that tension go. Like you don't have to do it quick. It doesn't, like the burning of you doing the Russian twist back and forth is not going to give you what you're looking for. Like I promise you, you will get what you're looking for by just going slow from one side to the other.
Right.
And I actually had a former client, a history of CrossFit, then switched to strength training, and she was built very similar to us. And I was having her in here and she was like, I want to build my core. Okay, great. So I programmed some stuff and she's like, I don't feel it. The only way I feel my core is if she would do like 20-pound med balls twist slams against a wall. And I'm like, is that because you have to use so much like force that's where you feel it? Because I was like, because you should be able to feel the Russian twist, the modified version that we're doing, and still be able to feel it with that 20-pound med balls like throw. And she couldn't feel the basic one. And I'm like, okay, so then now we're just using momentum. And so that's something to assess, like with your hanging leg raises, going back to that. If you're not truly feeling it, then we got to regress, and you will get what you're looking for with an easier movement. And then you can progress to the harder one only if and when you can feel it appropriately.
Love it. Good. Anything else? Don't do Kegels.
Don't do Kegels. Stop wearing lifting belts. And really just, I think, practice your breath work, whether you're, just starting working out or whether you've been doing it for 20 years, whether you're 20 years old or 60 years old.
Love it. Love this. Good. All right. Well, if you guys enjoyed this information, or, in your book club, y'all been talking about peeing on yourself, please share this podcast with them. If you love this podcast, we love a 5-star rating and review. Don't forget, if you comment below, we are giving away a package of our self-mastery methods. So continue to, we want to see those comments. We will pick at random next week, because I believe that will be our 4 weeks of doing this. So we'll pick what was that?
I said probably.
Yeah. So we'll pick our winner for that. Also, again, if you haven't already, make sure to follow and subscribe. And other than that, we're going to leave you as we always do.
What you say in the mind,
you see in the mirror. Goodbye. Bye.